Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with the patch 3.3b review. Alright, so now patch 3.3a has lasted like a long time. I'm not quite sure why, but anyways, we finally have patch 3.3b and I'm recording this about half an hour before the patch goes live, so hopefully the video itself will go live pretty soon, I hope. But anyways, um there's quite a few champion changes, but first up, before we get to that, we have the upcoming release of Samira and Sion. So they're both going to be releasing on August 26th, so that's in about a week's time. And of course, you guys know I'm gonna be excited to play Samira especially, and Sion is really exciting as well. Especially gonna see if there's gonna be any of those like inting Sion strategies like split pushing, etc. with Sion, which there probably will be. So we'll have to see how that changes the meta. And I know Sion is a champion a lot of people do like, so we're gonna see how popular he is as well as Samira, who of course I definitely will be playing. But we'll have to see if I can create content for that because I'm a little bit busy right now. So we'll see about that. So of course, together with their release, we have the Weapons of Noxus event. Highly likely they'll give one of the two champions free, as is the trend in the past. Generally, the second last or like the middle reward is generally a champion chest where you can choose between the two new champions, as we all know. So likely you can get one of the champions free, but of course that's not guaranteed. Alright, so now onto the champion changes. First up, we have Blitzcrank. Rocket Grab's cooldown, which is his Q, is going down by 2 seconds at all ranks. Now that 2 seconds is actually pretty significant, and I think that this actually makes Blitzcrank just a little bit better, but the fact remains is that Blitzcrank is a champion that is basically only single target, can only catch like one person. Like he can run up and ult and something like that, but he's definitely inferior compared to other hook champions like Thresh, Nautilus, Pike, etc., who can basically do way more than what he can. So in terms of like the support tier list, he probably still gonna stay about the same spot, but in terms of if you're actually playing him, of course he's gonna be better. That kind of goes without saying because it's a 2 second reduction in terms of your cooldown. So Gragas, finally getting some buffs. He's been getting a lot of nerfs in the past. So of course there was a time where Tank Gragas was really strong, and ever since they nerfed that, the way to go has been AP Gragas. So what they've done is they have actually increased his passive healing by 1%. That's going to be a little bit helpful, but not too significant, I guess. Then we have AP ratio on Drunken Rage, which is his W, as well as your Body Slam, which is the E, going up by 10% each. Now that of course is going to increase his damage quite significantly, because 10% AP is pretty significant, especially if you build Gragas full AP, which is what most people do right now. So the AP one-shot Gragas is basically, I mean, it was already online, but it's going to become way better. So I think that this buff to Gragas is actually pretty significant. Now Kassadin, we all know that he's really strong, basically getting permaban in ranked. What have they done? They reduced his health by 60, and his health per level by 10. So overall at like level 15, that's like about a 200 max health cut, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't seem like it really makes too much of a difference. That could be like one auto attack from an ADC, or like, yeah, something like that. So I don't think that really matters all that much, because actually 200 isn't even one auto attack from an ADC. Like if you crit like in the late game, one auto attack from an ADC can be like 700, so that's like not even one auto attack from an ADC, but that's probably like about one auto attack from like maybe a fighter or something. But I don't really think that this is gonna hurt him too much, because it really is just a very low amount of health to nerf anyway, and they didn't really hit anywhere else in his kit, so I really don't think this is gonna matter all that much. Now Kha'Zix, of course, he's been the top dog in the jungle with Lee Sin for like, at this point, many months. They're reducing his isolation damage on his Q, which is of course his main source of damage, by 10%. Now I think that they actually cut this before. I think it used to be 120, and I think they cut it to 110 before. So now they're cutting it by another 10%. Now I still think Kha'Zix is going to be really good, but this should be able to allow you to at least feel a difference, because 10% is a pretty sizable amount, so you should be able to feel a difference in Kha'Zix's damage. So pretty sizable nerf to Kha'Zix there. Now Lucian, finally getting a nerf. I know he's been really popular in the ADC role. Of course, he's one of my favorite champions as well. picks up a nerf to his cooldown on his Q. So basically at the first rank, you have a 1.5 second increase, and then you have the scaling increases of extra 1 second at rank 2, extra half a second at rank 3, and at rank 5 it's basically the same. Now basically, they're only hitting his early laning phase. Of course, with the nerf to Conqueror and the buff to Kraken Slayer, Lucian has become really good because he's basically the best Kraken Slayer champion in the game. The only one who can really compare is maybe Akshan, but he basically is the best Kraken Slayer champion in the game, and the fact that all his opponents who use Conqueror are weaker basically makes him even stronger, especially in the laning phase where Kraken Slayer is probably at its strongest. So I think that they're hitting the right part to nerf Lucian, especially because of course you rank up your Q at like level 1 or 2, and like you will rank up your Q again at like level 4, and basically after that you're almost like you are at like the dragon fight around when you're around level 6 or 7 like or so you should have almost your Q to the max rank already. So really it just hits his laning phase, which I think is the correct place to hit because he was really strong in laning phase. So I think this is a good nerf that will affect Lucian in the way that they want it to. In the meantime, Nautilus getting a huge buff. So what's the buff to Nautilus? Base movement speed going up by 5, very little, but of course base movement speed is always important. Now his dredge line, which is the hook, his Q, cooldown going down by 1 second at all ranks, which is of course going to make a difference, but that's not the important part. The important part is the projectile speed is going up from 16 to 18. Now it's only a 2 projectile speed increase, but of course we do know that the speed that the hook moves is really significant, like as to whether you get caught or not. So that's a huge buff in my opinion. And his depth charge getting sort of the same treatment. The acceleration start time is going down from 2.5 seconds to 1 second. So the acceleration start time, I believe, is that animation where he sort of drops his anchor to the ground, then the explosions in the ground start popping up, and then eventually you reach your target and the target gets knocked up. So I believe that the acceleration start time is talking about like that animation where he thumps his hammer to the ground. Actually, that's not 2.5 seconds. So I guess that's probably the speed in which the small explosions travel on the ground. I guess it should be that. So if that's the case, this is a really insignificant buff. Imagine getting knocked up like 1 second after the ultimate is being cast. That's pretty huge. So yeah, that's a pretty huge buff. Cooldown also going down by 10 at all ranks, another huge buff. So Nautilus should be probably moving up the support tier list this patch. He looks like he's gonna be really good, especially with these two huge buffs to his like 2 main forms of CC. Now Shyvana, obviously we all know that she's one of the best junglers at the moment after her mini rework, and Riot knows that as well. So what are they doing? They're nerfing her health per level by 10, and they're nerfing her burnout damage, which is her W, by basically 5 at all ranks. So 5 sounds like really little, but if you take into account that her burnout is continuous damage, and that damage is gonna tick for many counts when you're hitting enemies, it's gonna be a 5 damage nerf per tick. So basically it's gonna be a lot more than what it appears to be. So but in the grand scheme of things, still it's like 25 compared to 30. It's like 70 compared to 75. So that 5 damage, even though it ticks like many times, is still, I don't think, very significant. So I still think Shyvana should be one of the best junglers still, and I think she'll need another nerf real soon. So Tristana getting a buff. Of course I like that. I do play Tristana quite a bit. Rapid fire, her Q, the cooldown is going down by 2 seconds at all ranks. Love that. I've always thought that the cooldown on this was really long, like 13 seconds at max rank. I still think is really long, but I guess it's kind of balanced because it gives you a lot of extra attack speed. So explosive charge, which is the E, cast time is getting cut in half basically. Now I never really felt that the cast time was ever an issue with Tristana, and I don't really think you will even feel it because it's literally 0.27 seconds to 0.13 seconds. Like I think you might barely be able to feel it, but that's like not even 1 second. That's not even half a second. That's like 0.13 seconds. So I highly doubt you will even notice this if you didn't read the patch notes. I highly doubt you'll notice this at all. So I really don't think that matters at all. Now Varus getting a buff as well. Now of course I love that. I play Varus too. As a matter of fact, we just had that Varus video releasing just now in this morning. So that of course is pre-buffs. Now we're getting a buff on Varus. So he's getting some pretty huge buffs in my opinion. His Living Vengeance, his passive, which is the one where it's sort of like a Mock Jinx passive where he gets increased attack speed when he gets a takedown. It's going up from 5 seconds to actually scaling based on your champion level, so 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. Now, is this really important? Technically it isn't, because you're playing Lethality Varus, like the passive actually doesn't really matter at all, but it does matter in clutch situations where you're like killing people and you're like someone is diving onto you and the attack speed from your basic attacks actually matter. So I can't say that it doesn't matter at all, but it is only going to be very situationally a good buff. Alright, so now Blighted Quiver, his W is getting a huge buff. The cooldown from 25 seconds at all ranks is now going to 22 seconds at first rank, and it's actually going to scale down and drop by 2 seconds every rank. So in max rank it's 16 seconds. Now 16 seconds compared to 25 seconds is huge. And I can't tell you how many times I wanted to cast this, but it's on cooldown. So this is going to make Varus a lot stronger. Whether you're going AP or Lethality, the W is relatively important of a cooldown. So this is going to help you a lot. Now his Hail of Arrows, his E cooldown is also going down, but only at the earlier ranks. Like at max rank, it's still the same cooldown, but at the earlier ranks, the cooldown is going to drop by like 2 seconds at the first rank, and like it scales down again. So like 2 seconds in the second rank and like 1 second at the third rank, and at max rank it's the same as I mentioned. So overall, some pretty huge buffs to Varus still, in my opinion. And then Wukong getting a buff. His Warrior Trickster has increased range where he can dash over walls. Now I don't know how big this increased range is, but I think it's gonna be just slightly, because there are a lot of walls that he has problems getting over, and you keep like monkeying into the wall, like dashing right into the wall, and that's kind of stupid. Makes you look kind of stupid, I guess. And yeah, so I think this is gonna be helpful. Now Wukong is actually one of the top champions in like Baron lane and in the jungles. I'm surprised he didn't actually get a nerf, but hey, you know, he gets a buff instead. So who is getting nerfed though is Yuumi. So Yuumi's passive shield is going down by about 20 at all ranks, and the heal she's giving is also going down by about 20 at all ranks. Now, do I think 20 shield and 20 heal is going to be significant enough to basically make Yuumi weak? Personally, I don't think so, but we will have to see, because sometimes changes that seem like it's really little or they don't matter sometimes actually do. So I'm not going to be too quick to judge this one here, but basically how good Yuumi is really dependent on how much she can shield and how much she can heal. So they're hitting her where it hurts. So this should definitely affect Yuumi, but how much does it affect her, we'll have to see. Could completely kick her out of the meta, but I highly doubt that will happen. Most likely she's just going to be a bit weaker, but still pretty good. Now ARAM changes. You can take a quick glance through if you want to. Not going to talk about that in the interest of time. Now rune changes. Giant Slayer. Now instead of doing 1% bonus damage per 100 max health up to 10% when you reach 1000 max health, you're doing 2% bonus damage per 100 max health. Per bonus max, 100 bonus max health up to 10% at 500 bonus max health. Basically, your maximum cap is still the same. It's still 10%, but now it's a lot easier to hit that 10%, because instead of the enemy having to have 1000 bonus max health, which basically is like, you know, you have to like fight a Mundo or like a tank with like, I think like 4 items to have like 1000 max health. Instead, now you only need to reach 500. So now this item is gonna be this rune is gonna be way better because of this. However, if you think about it, the main problem with Demolish was not that it was weak. The main problem was that basically it was competing against runes that were too good. It's competing against Gathering Storm, Hunter Vampirism, as well as Triumph. So if you're an ADC, you still wouldn't take Giant Slayer over Hunter Vampirism, because Hunter Vampirism is so good. And Giant Slayer only works against tanks. So as an ADC, you want to kill the enemy mage, you want to kill the enemy ADC. That's not going to help. If you're a mage, you would probably still take Gathering Storm, because you still want to scale, you want to get more AP, you want to kill the enemy mage ADC assassin. You do want to kill the tank too, but that's not the priority. So the only class I can see using this is if you're a top lane tank or top lane fighter. You don't really have a great rune you can take at this spot. So some people do take Triumph, most people do take Triumph, but I can see top laners, like who are tanks or fighters, like Darius, Garen, or whoever. I can see them taking this rune. So maybe that's the niche, class of champions that can actually take this rune. But aside from that, don't really think too many champions will be using Giant Slayer. So Demolish, I personally think it's really strong, but I guess they don't think so because they gave it a 5% max health increase in terms of damage to basically make it such that people who are building max health, normally the top laners, can actually kill towers more easily. So yeah, basically, basically the Demolish is gonna be even better. Now Nimbus Cloak, I honestly do feel like it needs a buff because honestly when I take Nimbus Cloak, I can barely feel the difference. So I guess that kind of means that it should be getting buffed. So the duration is going up from 2 to 3 seconds. Of course, that's great. That's really significant. And the movement speed is basically going up by 5% at all. It's not even all ranks, but 5% across the board. So the lowest now is 10% extra movement speed, and the highest now is 40. So when you flash, you should have a 40% movement speed. Now I don't know if you can how much you can feel it, because even with the 35%, I could barely feel the movement speed increase. Probably saved my life countless times without me noticing, but yeah. Good buff, I guess. So the nullifying or the base shield is going down by 20 now. Take note that the AD and AP ratios are still the same. So in late game it's the same, but in early game you're going to be getting quite a significant less shield because it's really strong in the early game. So yeah, does make a lot of sense. Alright, so jungle changes. Basically, they're feeling that dragon stacking is a little bit too strong. So what they're doing is that on the base dragon, they're basically nerfing it by about like 1% all across all 3 dragons. And the most significant nerf, in my opinion, is at the second dragon. So at the second rank of the dragon, you're getting a 2% drop, which is really significant when you're talking about like 8 to 6%, like 6 to 4%, that kind of deal. So that is a pretty significant nerf. Now, I'm assuming that this is because either people are getting too strong after they get 2 dragons, or people are way too strong when they get 2 dragons, which makes it basically guaranteed that they get the 3rd dragon. But when you get to the 3rd dragon, the stacking is roughly the same. Like in fact, Infernal Dragon is the same. There's only a 1% drop for the Ocean Dragon. And yeah, but overall Mountain Dragon is getting a huge buff across the board because they felt that Mountain Dragon is a little bit overtuned. So basically the base values are getting halved at every rank, and the percentages follow the same trend as the Infernal and Ocean Dragon. So what does this mean? Obviously when the base amount is lower and the percentage amount is lower, percentage amount is a lot more important for tanks and a lot less important for carries, and the base amount is a lot more important for carries and don't really matter to tanks. So really, Mountain Dragon is going to be a lot worse on carries like mages and marksmen, because obviously they don't have a lot of defenses, so getting a percentage doesn't really matter as much as if you were a tank, but the base amount does matter, and the base amount getting cut means that it's gonna be a bit weaker for the mages and marksmen and etc. Basically non-tanks. So there's that. And now system changes, exhaust range going down from 7 to 5. Now of course we know exhaust has been broken, especially in the bot lane, for a long time, so we all knew a nerf was gonna happen sooner or later. Now the cast range, while I can't say that it's something insignificant, I will say that when I really think about it, as an ADC taking exhaust, most of the time I exhaust is when an assassin dives in on me, or like some kind of fighter like Set comes in from the side, a Kali comes in from the side, that kind of thing. That's when I use my exhaust. So this change I don't really think is gonna affect me all that much, but their goal is to make it less effective as a chasing tool, which is I definitely think that that's going to actually achieve that goal, because I do know some people actually use it for exhaust. Like for example, I've seen a lot of Lucians do exhaust into culling to get the slow so that they can basically land all the shots of their culling. Now I don't actually do that personally, but I can see why people do it. So I think like for those kind of purposes, like chasing down enemies and all, that's definitely gonna hurt. But overall I think it's a pretty minor change to exhaust, and I think it's alright. Now, tower playing ending time is actually going up from 6:30 to 7 minutes. Now, this seems pretty insignificant. It's just 30 seconds difference, but really the difference is the first herald. So, now the current meta is actually to prioritize dragon. So most of the time what happens is both teams go to dragon, they fight for dragon, one team eventually gets the dragon, and normally by the time one or both teams go to the herald to actually fight for herald, normally the herald normally the tower plates have either already dropped, or like when you're taking the herald it drops, or like by the time you take the herald basically they're about to drop, and you have to quickly put down the herald to actually try to get tower plates. So I do think that this change actually, number one, makes sense, and number two, is actually going to affect things quite a bit, because especially with this change, it's a lot more viable to go for the herald instead of going for dragon. Now dragon, as we know, is really really strong, and it probably is overvalued, but getting like a rift herald and like minusing 2k health off of the tower is like what, about 4+ plates, like 4.5 plates or something, and that's like pretty huge. So because that's like 600 gold from like those 4 plates alone, and if you get the tower, that's another like, I think like what, 150 or 350 gold split among whoever else is there or something like that. So that's a lot of gold, and that's like half, maybe not half, like 1/3 of a full item, like yeah, so like that's a lot of gold. So I think that this is a pretty good change. And the early game tower protection is now going down from like 3 minutes to 2 minutes. So basically it's gonna be easier to take towers. That's pretty good, I guess. And outer turret's attack damage is actually going up by like 20 at lower levels, and actually at max levels is going down, scaling with time, of course. So basically the rationale for this is that when people coordinate dives, they think dives are a little bit too safe, like there isn't enough risk, not enough significant risk in dives. Now personally, even in my like solo queue games, like in master and all that, like I don't really even see people having coordinated dives. Like normally what I see is the jungler comes for a dive, they get too impatient to wait for the minion wave to come in, and they dive without the minion wave and they die. So I have not seen coordinated dives in Wild Rift. Maybe I'm just not high elo enough. I have seen it in legendary queue actually, but honestly I don't see dives often enough. Maybe I'm just a little bit too low elo for coordinated dives, but yeah, maybe coordinate plays like 5v5 or something, like when you're playing with your friends and you can coordinate the dives, maybe. So yeah. And lastly, the anti-siege mechanism expiration is going down to 5 minutes. So basically what this is when there are champions defending the tower, the tower actually gets more tanky, which is why sometimes like you see people just standing around the tower but not actively trying to contest the wave or trying to actually actively attack enemies, because the towers get bonus resistances when you're nearby. Now it's now going to go in line with objectives. So basically what this means is that you know, if someone like split pushes and like you try to stay there to protect your tower, it's not really going to help anymore. So it kind of encourages you to go to the objective instead of trying to defend your tower from a split pusher, which indirectly makes split pushing a bit better. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, don't think this is going to change all that much. It probably only affects split pushers who just like push top lane when everybody else has gone to dragon or something like that. So of course we got a couple of skins dropping. Of course, they're all dropping on basically the same day that Sion and Samira are released, except for Dragon Trainer Tristana, which should be out later today, and accessories from the event. And yeah, so apparently there was a bug where Jace's melee attack had like a 0.000006% chance to crit, which apparently is a real thing, but it's not gonna happen anymore. So anyways guys, thank you so much for watching the patch notes review, and goodbye.